The decision by the Supreme Court has put the EU-US agreement into question, because what the Europeans negotiated in this agreement are basically that their tariff, which was partially based on this emergency legislation, would be lowered to a maximum of 15%. This also included parts of tariffs that are not subject to the Supreme Court decision, but also that are not affected by this 15% now. So there are these parts still there. It still applies there. But for the other parts now, there's a new tariff that is potentially somewhat higher than what was negotiated in the EU-US agreement. We don't know what the consequences of this will be for the consumers. This means basically that goods from all kinds of countries. It is unclear what will be the rules under this new tariff, so this has to be calculated good by good. It is not unlikely that there will be goods where the tariff rate will be somewhat higher than under the agreement of last year. At the same time, it is not clear if these tariffs will stand for very long anyway. So right now there's a lot of uncertainty over this. I think status quo for European companies is probably comparable to what we had before, but with a big grain of uncertainty in there that you do not know what will apply in a couple of months. We've seen the dollar depreciate against a basket of currencies, and we also see the stocks declining. So investors don't like uncertainty. Senior voices in the European Parliament have already signaled that they will postpone the ratification of the deal that was struck last year, because they don't know what would be the terms of the deal now. And here for the European side to deliver their side, while they not know if the United States is able to deliver on their side of the deal, means that there's right now not much of a basis for this ratification. At the same time, the European Commission is pushing for basically the US upholding their side of the deal, meaning no tariffs above 15%. And it is unclear if this will be the case under the current rules that are now put forward by the White House. It could lower prices in Europe, so it's very unclear where we will end up. The big question mark then is also what the United States will do in a couple of months, because they clearly want to have some higher tariffs than they had before, but they will have to do this on a different legal basis, which could mean that they base their new tariffs on complaints about European tech regulation or European tax rules, which would be much more attached to European sovereignty and therefore likely receive much more pushback. So the EU-US deal is really into question right now. I expect that to be a postponement. I think it would be unwise now for the European Parliament to make a decision on something that is legislative for the EU and therefore binds European hands. The Supreme Court has decided that the tariffs were illegal, but it has not decided yet whether they have to be reimbursed by the US Treasury or not. This was relegated to lower courts, but we can expect them to decide so. This does not necessarily have huge implication for European businesses, because the importers pay the taxes and therefore they will also be the ones that will be potentially rebated. To the extent that European companies act as importers in the United States, they might claim reimbursements, but what they will certainly not be reclaiming is the loss of revenue that they got from just the rise in prices they had to do and what that meant for loss of customers. So we don't know also going forward